All right. Hi, Jody. Hi, everyone who's
Hey,
watching. Welcome.
what's happening?
All right. Once again, we're back here for another episode of Live from Jody's Jazz Joint. And today we have a very, very special guest, Mr. George Garzone. So, just last week, we had Kirk Whalum here, and it was a wonderful session. So, we're so excited to have another titan of the saxophone world to be here with us today. So, Jody, welcome. Thank you so much for having these shows. It's wonderful, and thank you for having me here as well.
Thank you, Daniel. You
Oh,
did a great job, and we hope we did this one at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, so some Europeans could come on board. George has so many great, strong connections,
mm,
so we want to hear if you guys studied with George, if you guys, what mouthpiece you play, where you're
Mhm.
from, right? Uh,
Yeah, so we have Pete here. Pete has the first comment in from YouTube. He says, "Hi Jody, this is Pete from Miami. Thanks for doing this for us." Yes, and we really
hey, Pete.
appreciate it, Jody. I mean, not many, you know, owners and CEOs of the companies, in the saxophone world would take time out to do, live streams like this. So I'm sure a lot of people really appreciate it.
Well, for me, it's such a perk of my job that I get to hang with these my heroes, and I do want to say about George. I met George in 1980 when I went to Berkeley, and in my first semester, I
Oh,
had performance ear training and avant garde ensemble with him, and then I would go see the Fringe play, in bars at night, and knowing George has profoundly changed my life, and I because it gives me a perspective of music that I would have never had, and and I think that all his students feel that way. So,
mhm.
like I said, it's such a perk of my job, and I've played. George has come and played gigs with me, and that's always
Wow.
amazing thrill. So,
Yeah,
uh,
that's awesome.
you want to bring him on?
Yeah, in a while we'll keep the
Okay.
suspense going for a while. Wait for a few more people to join us. We have Greg here, and Greg says he plays the Giant, Jody Jazz Giant size 10. And he says, "Thanks,
Nice.
Jody and George. Wow, that's awesome." Oh, and we have Joey DiFrancesco here as well.
Yeah,
Um,
man. Hey, Joey.
man,
Joey's playing a 10-star custom dark right now.
and I think he has a giant as well. I
Yeah,
just saw on Instagram playing a 10-star giant as well, I think. And,
that's the signature Garzone. Yeah,
wow,
Joey's
so
getting to be a bad
amazing.
boy on that tenor. Yeah,
Yeah, it's already
crazy.
sounding so amazing. Oh, and we have Jeff Kashiwa. Nice to see you here, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
Jeff says George sat in at the sax pack a few years back in Vegas. Wow.
Oh,
He stepped up to the mic on my horn and mouthpiece and killed. Wow. That's
wow, wow, that's cool. That
wow.
must have been. I don't know. He was playing you on your DV, Jeff. Wow,
Yeah, Jeff, let us know if it was
that's
what
wild.
mouthpiece that was. That was amazing. And Joey says they are killing pieces.
Thank you,
Wow, that is
Joey.
amazing. And wow, just thank you so much guys for being here with us. And yeah, as Jody said just now, this is a new time slot. The first time, we're trying this slot. So 1 p.m. Eastern time, 7 p.m. European time now, and it's 1 a.m. over here in Singapore and in
Uh,
Southeast Asia. So but happy to be here. And, like we were mentioning, we felt like we were neglecting a lot of people from Europe because, when we do it, our usual time slots, it's, like 3, 4 a.m. for them. So
right.
now it's something more manageable. Oh, Jeff says it was his HR
Oh,
star piece.
okay. More in the pocket for
Wow.
George. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
We have tenor tones here from Miami as well. Thank you so much. For those who are here watching either on Facebook or YouTube, if you're on Facebook, you can click the YouTube link above. You can join us on our YouTube channel there. And also let us know where you're from, where you're watching from, and what pieces you're playing now. I think that would be really nice to know. We have Zishi Liu here. He says, Jody, thank you for having this wonderful section. He took a lesson with George Garzone in his first year in Berkeley, and he suggested to him the Jody Jazz Mouthpiece HR. Big opening 9 or 10. Wow.
Yeah, thank you, George, and thank you. Who is that?
知识.
Just should. Thank you. Shay, just should.
And we have Darden from Kosovo, and he plays the HR7. And he's so happy. Thank you so much. I know this is
Burning.
Vincent from Singapore. Thank you for staying up late and joining us here. We have Leven from Belgium playing the HR8 on his alto. Wow,
Nice.
nice.
Thank you.
And we have Cringe Leon from Norway. He plays the Jet and Super Jet.
Wow.
And we have Jonathan Link. I think that's North Carolina playing the Jet on his Oh, on both his alto and tenor. And looking forward to getting the super jet. Wow.
Beautiful.
And we have Sam
Beautiful.
Charles here as well. He says George is the best teacher I've ever had, and he plays a HR 10 star as well. Nice. So we have
Excellent.
many, many students of George here with us. Wow, we have a
He
long
wrote a book.
message here, but maybe we'll keep this for later. Okay, we have Jamie from Vancouver playing the Jet 8. Sam says he's playing on a Cornu Wonder 2.
Nice.
Benedict David playing the DV Alto since it first came out and still playing it today. Wow. Thank you guys
Beautiful.
so much. Really nice to see, the Jody Jazz family out here, for this show. And we are super excited to have George to be a special guest and to take time off his schedule. So, Jody, should we bring George on now?
Can we do one thing before we do? Because
Sure.
we're going to have these giveaways, and
Yeah.
this is going to be the first giveaway. It's the Trading with the Greats with George Garzone. And
Mm,
you have Mulgrew Miller, you have the Fringe rhythm section. To me, it's one of the best play alongs ever made because you're getting to play with George in the band, and then you trade and stuff. So it's a 2 CD set. We're going to give that away. And here's
yeah.
the question. So the first person to type in the answer wins this. What should they do, Daniel, to get it? Should they email us?
I think they type it in on the comments right here, and the first comment with the right
Right.
answer, right spelling,
They get
right
it.
here in the comments, and that will be the winner. And then they can email us, email
Yeah, you
you,
can
and
email Jody at jodyjazz.com. Okay, here
yeah.
we go. You got typing fingers ready. And what's the name of George's uncle who taught him saxophone?
All right. So once again, what is the name of George's uncle who taught him the saxophone? First person to comment with the right answer and spelling gets this great CD.
Well, we're talking about saxophone players. I don't know if we should worry about spelling.
Okay, we have Eli here.
Close enough, Eli.
Close enough. Okay, all
ROCCO,
right.
but that's close enough.
All right.
Okay.
So Eli Wyatt, thank you so much. Fastest fingers typing Uncle Rocco, who was the first to teach George the saxophone. So thank you so much. And you can email Jody, Jody at jodyjazz.com, right?
Yeah.
All right. And you can claim this first special giveaway just for this live stream. All
Okay.
right.
Now
So
let's bring on
now,
George.
and
Yeah.
thank you so much for the rest of you whose answers are coming in as well. But Eli got there the fastest. So thank you so much. But we have two more CDs, two more prizes to give away
DVDs.
throughout this
Yeah.
show. Yeah. So do look out for that as well. You'll still get the chance to win it. And don't forget to share this video with your friends on social media, on Facebook, on YouTube. You can share it so that more people can join us for this special show. So without further ado, let's bring on Mr. George Garzone. Hi,
How you
Hey,
George.
doing? Nice.
George.
Hey.
It's
Thanks
like
so much for being here, George.
I feel like I'm on a game show giving away prizes.
Yes, a new car.
You wish. No.
All
So,
right.
how you
All
guys
right.
doing? Everything good?
We are great over here. Thank you so
Swinging.
much for taking the time out to do this.
Absolutely. I'd do anything for this guy. Well, almost anything.
Yes.
Just to talk about him for a minute, I didn't realize you were in my ensembles and my class. I thought you just studied private, but
Man, my first semester, and you got in that first day in avant-garde ensemble, you turned the lights out and you said, "Now play."
yeah, I mean
That was so cool.
that's gone on since the 70s and people still talk about that. I really didn't think anything about that, but I realized that shutting the lights kind of made everybody a little less insecure when they played and they went crazy, which was great.
Yeah. And George, what about? Do you still do performance ear training? Do they still do that?
um, me personally, they have it, but I don't do
Yeah.
it anymore because I've kind of I realized I wanted to drop down to just teaching privates, teaching the triadic approach in the global master's program at Berkeley. Kind of something, being individualistic, which I didn't do before. But as I get to the point of my life, I just want to teach kids one on one, which are all really good. All these guys you see that are responding are really great players, and they're young too. So I'm really pretty much doing privates in the triadic.
It's amazing how many saxophone players you've taught. I mean, you might be one of the most influential, probably one of the most influential teachers in the world now of serious jazz players, right?
Yeah, well, the thing I found was, being from Boston and teaching at Berkeley and actually going to Berkeley. I started at Berkeley. Well, I was, no one knows this, but my uncle Rocco knew Joe Viola. So they did a little Kumba thing and they let me in while I was still in high school. So I had like a 1 to 2 year jump on everyone before I got in. So I was, in from Boston, going to Berkeley, and then I had that great honor to study with Joe, and Joe kept me under his wing the whole 4 years.
Yeah,
So he was like, Jody, he was like a Zen Buddha, and
exactly.
even if you were just sitting next to him, I was a kid and I was like, I felt this vibe coming off of this guy. I'm like, what the hell is this feeling? And he wasn't even saying anything. Well, he was teaching me through a Zenism, which later on I got into and started to teach my students.
Yeah, that's a great description because that's how I describe Joe too, is like Buddha, something, some energy. It's
Yeah.
so great.
You know, to tell these students, if you think you can find anyone like that around, where you live, where you're going to school, that gives you something without speaking and you feel that's the person you need to get close to,
Yeah.
you know.
Hey, you started doing weddings at 12, right?
Complete flip, Joe. Thanks. Well, coming from this, my uncle Rocco in a musical family, they were all playing. They were doing weddings, and back then it was big just to make money. So by the time I was 12, I could hang with the family band. So think about being 12 years old and sitting on the bandstand with your family, not even playing. My uncle Joe was like, "George, you just sit here and just watch us." So the first 3 or 4 gigs, I just sat there. I didn't even play. Just checked out what was happening in a chair next to Joe, my uncle Joe, the drummer. And then by after 5 or 6 visual gigs, they put me up there, and I was able to hang with these guys while at age 12.
Yeah.
Which I
What'd you learn like from playing wise from doing
well,
that?
I mean, if you want it, we got plenty of time. So if you want to get into it, back then, and some of the cats my age will remember when you went to a gig and people threw like this one, two
Oh,
fingers,
right.
one down. This was suggesting one flat, one sharp. Two sharps up, two down, two flats. So nothing was ever said. So my uncle Rocco taught me all of these tunes that they would play. So they would just start playing a tune, and then around the last 8 to 12 bars of the tune, they would throw up the next key, and they never really said like, "Oh, let's play Shine On Harvest Moon." They just jammed right into this next tune. So there was, believe it or not, I hope you guys can relate to this, the older guys my age. There was this clash of these key areas for about a bar or two before you actually went into the next tune. Okay. And the people were just dancing along. They were having a good old time. But for me, I think for my ear, that is where the fringe made its inception. Okay.
Really?
Yeah, because when you're 12 years old, you don't know what's happening, so you're hearing this clash of key areas going on for 3, 4, 5 years. So I really think that non-tonality was put into my ear without me realizing. I mean, I know it's wild, but I really live by that because later on, I was like, wow, check this out. When I was playing with the fringe, I was like, damn, they're fringing out on the wedding. So I don't know if
You
that.
know, what I think about you is, besides your incredible everything, your playing, your sound, and the harmonics and the trichochromatic approach and everything. But you're a cat who could play beautiful melodies, and I bet all that time, doing that straight ahead wedding stuff influence your melodies.
Well,
I
that
think,
was again, that was my uncle Rocco. When you got on these gigs, you weren't, you couldn't fill. You had to play the melody. So I learned from him just the melody. And I'll tell you two instances, which is really good in a teaching or playing situation. So I'm growing up just playing the melody. So then when I went to Berkeley and I realized I could get into this fill, playing the melody and kind of bopping around a little bit, they used to scream at me. My Uncle Rocco was like, Georgie, just play the melody. My Uncle Joe, Georgie, play that melody. And I was like, that is the melody. And it was shortly after that they didn't kick me out of the band, but they wanted to. But I was strong enough to hang, so they kept me in. But um, not learning how to just play the melody. And if we go years later, when I was playing with Mike Minieri, we did Soul Eyes, which is
yeah,
on one of the DVDs, and I just played the melody. After we did, he said, I had Michael Brecker in this band. I had Bob Berg. I had all the cats, but you're the only cat that's ever just played the melody, which, I worship those guys too, but I found it shocking that he picked up on that. So, you know, playing the melody, if you just play the melody, it's more than just playing the melody because you're dependent on your sound, your ability to hold the long tones, the ability to keep momentum in one note. And that's what I don't find today. And that's what I try to teach these kids is playing long tones and playing the melody just to be secure about what your sound is about.
yeah, George. This that from the trichochromatic. What's this called? The music of George Garzone and the trichochromatic approach. That's the first one we did together, right?
Right, right.
And we the reason I call it the music of George Garzone and the trichochromatic approach because I never thought we were going to do another one, and I wanted to get like I was imagining. Well, if I had Coltrane and I could do something, want to make it like almost like a documentary. So on there is some performances, and there's a duo with you and Mike Maneri on Soul Eyes, and I think the thing is worth the price of admission just for that. It's so beautiful. George, would you play a little Soul Eyes for us?
Right
Would you
now?
mind?
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Let me just stand up and toot a few notes, and then I'll go into it just to warm my horn up a little bit.
sure.
Okay.
So we're going to give this one away. So
Mm,
also, but we'll do that after Soul Eyes. Okay.
okay.
George. So thank you so much. Beautiful,
Just about.
beautiful. Yeah, George. Can you talk to me about vibrato and kind of your really restrained use of it?
All right. So again, going back to Uncle Rocco, Rocco had a great vibrato. I always said you could park cars in between each note or
Wow.
each beat. But um, when I went to Berkeley, a few of my models that I love were telling me, "Gosh, you need to lose that vibrato." So when I stopped doing or tried to stop playing, it was really difficult to do because if you get used to playing like that, you're interrupting the flow of the sound. So for me to stop doing it required me to get into this being able to sustain the note for 4 or 5 beats. That's intense because when you stop using vibrato, you're on your own out there. You're going to hear the intonation up, you're going to hear the intonation down, but it was something I had to deal with. And then the first Fringe record I did was called The Fringe with the picture of a tree outside. That's when I realized, oh my God, I need to lose the vibrato. So that's a personal thing for me. I'm not telling everyone to not play vibrato. I'm not saying to use it, not to use it. You figure that out. But the challenge is to play that note straight. And I'll tell you, it takes a long time to master that because you can. The thing I like about it is I can hear the inconsistencies of it in my own playing, so I'm quick to try and fix that.
Huh. Uh, so I
Did I
guess
stop?
why,
Did I
why
stop
don't we
you?
give away this thing, okay?
Sorry.
Uh, let's give away this DVD. And
Mm.
so what this DVD is, guys, is the original trichomatic approach, major and minor. And we have who do we have on that? Mike Maneri. Uh, you've got Bob Galati and
Would
Lockwood. We
uh,
had Frank Tiberi on some of the performances. That's where we came up with the trading with the greats concept because I wanted to put like a play along and have you guys play and the cats trade with them. So we've got that on there. Um, it's a tremendous thing, and so it's a 2 DVD set. And if you guys want to check these things out, you can go to jodyjazz.com under resources, and you'll
Mm.
see the media. Um, so we're going to give this away, and it's funny you mentioned Mike on that quote. So here's a quote, and the first one to say who said this quote wins. All right. Here's the quote. I'm not the master of the saxophone. George Garzone is. Who said that?
Right, let's see. First, who's the first person who comments on that? All right, we have a winner, and it's Sam Charles. He says Brecker.
Okay, that's right. And that's a pretty amazing quote.
Joe, can I
Yeah.
put a
Yeah,
footnote on that?
please.
Because when I don't know, did that come out in Downbeat or it came out somewhere? When people started telling me that, I thought they were pulling my leg. You
You know
know,
where it came up, where I first heard it was on that thing because Mike Maneri, I did interviews on the trichomatic approach, and Mike told it to me in the interview. That's the first I ever heard of it.
well, I just feel that, for me, and you can't categorize something like that. I mean, the fact that he said that because he knew or he knows that myself and every other saxophone player on the planet worshipped him and still worships him. So I'm just backing that up by saying I think right across the board, everyone is equal. All the guys I grew up with, Lovano, Liedman, Frank Tiberi was my teacher too. So just to put that.
Hey, speaking of all those cats, uh, I wanted to congratulate you and Ileana on your wedding, your marriage.
Thank
Uh,
you.
and you had this crazy Zoom reception because you got married in coronavirus time, and it was like a who's who of tenor players on there. All your buddies, uh, Lavano, Liebman, was Berganzi was there, right?
I
Uh,
think so, yeah.
and
I was,
Claire Daly. I mean, there's so many cats on there. It was
yeah,
amazing.
I
How do
mean,
you stay friends with guys like that? You guys are such tight friends, and you play together and stuff.
you know why? I'll tell you why, Jody, and everybody remember this. We never ask anything from each other. We just want to play. You've never asked, there's a bloodline that goes through all those guys, you know, it's everlasting. We never look for anything. We're so happy to see each other. We're happy to see each other succeeding. I mean, you've got to understand, I came in a little later than everyone else, and, you know, these players like Joe and I went to Berkeley. Lieb I met. I actually saw him live at the Lighthouse at the Jazz Workshop with Elvin
Oh
Steve
wow,
Grossman. I saw that live.
wow.
These guys were like my mentors, and then to start playing with them, Brecker, and then to meet Frank Tiberi, and to find out that God put my musical God in my backyard. He lives 10 minutes from me here. I mean, all these things that happened to me, personally, were, I don't mean like, oh, they were meant, supposed to happen. It was just things that went down, and we always trusted each other and never looked for anything in each other than, man, let's go. Romano and Liedman and all the cats, they just wanted to play, and that's what Joe put in me, man. He's like, just blow, man. Like the Galati's say, just play, just play. So I think that cast of cats for me. I mean, I didn't get to see. I think I saw a snapshot of everyone, but it was so. I mean, we had people from Argentina, and we had people from Italia. My friend Marco, and everybody's like, "Wow, look at all these people," But I was too caught up in getting married in the parking lot of the bridge, the
Yeah.
Bridgewater Town Hall. Well, yeah, just come say hi, quick, 2 seconds. Come on, she's bashful. Just so here she
Hey,
is,
Liana.
Beauty,
Uh,
who is responsible for the triadic coming out, the augmented and diminished. Without her help, it wouldn't have been possible. But she's working hard with Jody, and we're all in cahoots with getting more things happening. So,
So yeah, that's the triadic chromatic approach. Two, you've got on georgegarzone.com.
mm,
George has continued making, they continued this, and volume two, diminished and augmented, is amazing sounding. You've got Leo Genovese playing. I think 20th century or now 21st century composers are going to be studying this because the stuff sounds so modern and beautiful. So Liana has done a tremendous job with this. You can get that on the what do you
Apple,
call it? Apple Books or
Apple
mm,
Books. We're trying
yeah.
to release more. Maybe have it come out in a PDF so you can download it. So we're in the works, like Jody.
What's so cool about it because I bought it and is so cool, Ilyana. You did this thing where you can slow it down. Uh, it's amazing. Okay, now I can finally play this thing. Uh, and you know what's really cool? I like to speed it up too. I have my coffee in the morning, speed that shit up. So that's burning, man. You guys got to go to georgegarzone.com. Also, go to George's YouTube channel. You started it not too long ago, and
Right.
you've got a lot of great lessons on there. And Ileana's putting some nice editing in there and stuff. And so go to George's YouTube channel. It's there, man. He's going to tell you how to get the sound and everything.
mm.
Uh, so speaking of sound, George, could you just give us a little thoughts and thoughts on playing a sound, and then maybe why you play a 10-star?
Well, I need to hear that question that you always ask me.
Okay, George, tell us about the sound.
Okay, where's your picture? I don't see your picture. I just see.
Okay, I'll find a picture. Let me tell us about the sound, George.
Uh, Joe, let's go like question by question. What was the first thing you wanted to ask just about the sound, period?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So again, to go back to the family, this sound you hear is a family given sound. So it's been handed down through three generations. My uncle Rocco to his son Richie to me. Okay. In my family, my believe it or not, my sound was the least uh not appreciated, but I thought the less beautiful, because
Wow.
Rocco and Richie, I mean, I don't even know how to explain it to you. I mean, my family could probably tell you, but if you were listening to a band, you knew that they were in that band. You know, so this sound came to my ears from birth, because they were always playing. They were always at every wedding, every uh, you know anniversary party or anything. So it was always in my ears. So I grew up um, with the sound. So as I, got into high school and went to Berkeley, I thought everyone came from a musical family until I found out not. But it wasn't until I met Joe Lovano that, that I was able to talk to someone that understood what the sound was about, because his dad, Big T, was like a role model for all of us. I actually hung with Big T when I was on the road with Tom Jones, and Joe had left with Lonnie Smith, Dr. Lonnie Smith, and I was with Dad all week, hanging out,
Oh,
listening.
wow.
He had a barber shop, which he gave me a haircut, and it was the only barber shop in Cleveland that you could get your haircut listening to Miles and Train. So,
That's
but
cool.
going back to the sound, um, I just want to suggest to everyone, talking about the mouthpiece and the sound together, it's not necessary for you to play a 10 star. You could probably, and I've heard Train play a 6 metal link, and he sounded just as big. It's like when you go to buy shoes. If you wear a 7 or an 8, you're not going to buy a pair size 10, right? You're not going to do that because it's not going to fit. For me, the reason all of this happened is because I started and was playing big mouthpieces from the beginning. I think I started with a 7 and 8 and then graduated to the 10. But I also, studied with Zen masters all my life and worked on the physical part of airflow and air articulation. Working with these Korean Zen master and training us, and I still do it to this day, is the reason why I can play the 10. So I'm just saying, on the flip side, it's not necessary to run out and grab a 10 star. Grab an 8, grab a 7, you'll have the same sound. But the thing for me is I learned how to manipulate the sound through the airstream. So being able to play a 5 Rico with a 10 star is because I'm not even using the mouthpiece or the reed. I'm using the air. Did anyone ever tell you that? I mean, out there.
No.
Okay, when you slow your, in a time of of a situation, provocation or whatever, what happens is everything slows down and you start to slow your airstream down. So actually, everything around you slows down, so you can see what's happening. Okay, it's like slow motion. It only happened to me once in my life, but nothing went down. But everything was in vertical slow motion. So that's what I'm doing with the air. I'm not using the reed. I'm not using the mouthpiece. I am, but I'm using the air. Can I show you one little thing to
Sure.
practice? I
Yeah.
call it playing long tones without tonguing the note.
Right.
And I'll eventually get down to this thing I call the non-sound. Okay, cool.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
So you hear the sound of the air, then the note, and then when I go to let go of the sound, I go back to the sound of the air. So it's air, sound, air.
So George, in your embouchure is staying constant, and the air is speeding up, so to speak, to get. Why does the sound come out, or why does it not come out at first?
Well, it's a combination of a little bit of a smile just to get that note. See, I don't. The air is probably always the same, so I'm using a smile
Ah,
to get the note to happen. Okay,
okay. So you're kind of bringing the embouchure into focus, maybe, but
exactly.
the air is constant.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
I might increase it a little bit. Let me try it again to see what you think.
okay.
And you can hear when I get to the upper register, I'm blowing the note down. Me personally, and you can object if you want, I want the note to sound a little bit flat. So then what I'll do is I'll smile to bring the sound, the intonation up a little bit. Okay, that's
Yeah.
my personal thing. Again, if teachers or whoever's playing or practicing, if you feel different, that's totally cool. But I'm trying to work on the downswing because when I get on the bandstand with the fringe and we put the pedal to the metal, I've got to be conscious of not playing sharp. And whether I'm on the pitch, behind the pitch, in front of the pitch, what I'm telling you now can completely change when you go into combat.
So this is something that I learned from you on that when we did the triatochromatic, the first one, because we also have a lesson on a whole lesson on sound there. That's when I said to you, "Tell us about the sound, George." And you in it, you end up giving me 17 tips, uh, and the one that I'm using now. I mean, it's so cool that, but one I really take into my clinics and stuff is that thing where people say, like you say, I said, how do you make an embouchure? How do you make your lip? And you said, just do it, just natural. Start to blow and then bring your jaw slowly up. When the sound starts, you're there, you're done. That's kind of getting people not to bite too much, right?
That's exactly, you nailed it. See, the thing is, you want to go in with a flabby lower lip. If you listen to like Eddie Lockjaw Davis, Ben Webster, the older cats that play like that. Even my
Yeah.
Uncle Rocco, the reason he had that killer vibrato and that low, sound is because he had that flabby lower lip. You can't.
Oh, yeah. Put that on the mic, George. I want to hear that again. I love it. Put that right on the mic. I just, let us hear that.
Now remember, that's subtoning a low B flat with a 10 star and a number cinco. Okay, number.
Yeah. Number 5 read. That's something.
And again, I'm not saying, like I tell everyone, don't run out and buy a 10 star because you hear that sound. You might be able to duplicate that sound with a smaller opening. But for me, I spent a lot of time figuring out how not to overuse my embouchure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when the kids come into school, the first thing I do is drop the articulation and drop that jaw. I always remember Joe Viola, Jody. I play.
He,
He would pull my. Do you remember me doing that to you at all? Pulling that jaw down, and
no, because you tried to touch me, and I was like, "Get your no."
but anyway, lowering that, and you can see how tight he would do that with me. George, you're too tight, George. You're too tight, and he would pull a lip down. So that's where between him and my uncle, I realized that it really needs to be loose, and any manipulation you do of intonation comes from here. It's almost like if you play flute.
Yeah.
A quasi flute embouchure. I mean, it's not exactly like that, but when I used to watch Matt Marvuglio play, he was like really like he would kind of really have this great embouchure, and
Yeah.
kind of modeled it after that a little bit. So, but while also keeping that lower lip um, loose.
Yeah, that was funny. My first lesson with Joe Viola, he took his handkerchief, uh, and what did he do? He
He
put his handkerchief around my thumb and stuck my thumb in his mouth and showed me his lip, and I was like, "Whoa, okay." And then he put his arms around me from behind to play finger the saxophone while I blew. And I was like, "Wow, Berkeley's weird."
he did that to me, but I have one better than that. Just for the sidetrack for a minute.
Yeah.
First lesson, I think I was 16, and he knew my Uncle Rocco. Was like, "All right, Georgie, so let me hear you play." So if you knew his room, he had a bathroom in there. He said, "But wait a
Oh
minute."
yeah.
He went in the bathroom, got in the bathroom, shut the door. He said, "All right, Georgie, let me hear you play." So I played, and as soon as he heard my sound and it was pleasing to him, he came out of the bathroom. So that was my first meeting with Joe. But um, I think it takes a lot of time, but being as loose as you can and allowing that airstream to come through is the important thing about the sound. And again, flat is okay. I'm not saying play flat, but if it sounds a little bit low, that means you're doing it right.
Yeah, cool, cool. I think the level is for the saxophone right now. Your speaking level, if Liana can bring that up.
Cool.
Uh, so let's see. What do we want to talk about, George?
Do the guys,
Uh,
do you have any questions out there? Do you do that or
yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
I've got a bunch of questions for you, but we can totally do that. Uh,
Mm.
let's take one question from the
Yeah,
audience.
let's see. Okay, I think David Hayes, he has a good question here. Says, love listening to this question. Why does George prefer a hard rubber mouthpiece rather than a metal mouthpiece?
Good question, David. I
uh,
think it's cheaper, right, George? Because I make you pay full price for everything. Uh,
I told you, keep it inside, Joe. How about
okay.
how about when you told Frank? He's like, "Oh, I guess I'm going to have to get myself a Jody Jazz," and he said, "Yeah, I can sell you one right now." Frank is great. Um, if you, I don't know if you can see, Dave, but I play this balanced action. It's actually my Uncle Rocco's horn too. He bought it probably mid '80s, but it's from 1921 or 23, and the metal mouthpiece it couldn't deal with the saxophone, so I was already playing a metal link, and then sorry, a rubber link, and then shortly after that, I met Jody. I heard Dino Gavoni playing next door, and he sounded killing. I said, "Dean, what's that mouthpiece?" "Oh, it's Jody Jazz." "Jody Jazz, who's that?" "Jody Espino." He's like, "Oh my God, he's my old student." So then we got in touch, and he made this mouthpiece that fit perfectly with the saxophone. I didn't have, to be truthfully, I didn't have this one for 2 weeks because Emilio had to break it down, and it took me 2 or 3 days to get used to it. But today was the settling day, thank God. So it's sounding great because of Emilio and because of the piece. So with this balance, I think it's easier to deal with the older horns. Where on the Mark 6, I might be able to use a metal Jody Jazz.
Mm.
Yeah, George, that was one of the thrills of my life. I was in my loft in New York, and I get a phone call. "Joe, it's Gars. Listen to this." And that's the first time I heard you play that 10 star. You just played it over the phone, and I was like, "Oh man, this is great." So that was so cool.
Yeah, I
Wow.
mean,
Uh,
the mouth for me, the HR is very user friendly. And the only thing that I leaned on you about was going to the 10. I know you went up to a 9. I said, Jody, make a 10. People will
10
buy.
star. The
Right, 10.
star means
Right,
5 thousandths of an inch more. So it's
but
135 thousandths of an inch.
right. Reason being because these mouthpieces are not difficult to play. You know what I'm saying? You made them in such a way so you could take a 10 star and play it, you know.
Everybody that I give a 10-star to is so surprised. I just say, just play it for fun. You'll be surprised that you can play it. They play it easily. I mean, when you're down here and we're playing gigs, I play a 10-star too. But other normally, I'm trying to hang, and I like it. It's fun. But normally I'm like 8 or something like that.
Yeah, but you
Uh,
you sound good on all of it. It all sounds good. You know, you do.
well, if you make a mouthpiece, you make a 5-star and a 10-star. You have to learn to love each one of them.
Well,
Really have to learn how to play it.
I'm the one who made you love the 10 star because
Yeah, that's true.
But
That's true.
reason being, like I said again, gang, is because these mouthpieces were so easy to play. When I blew into this, I was like, wow, this doesn't feel like a 10. It feels smaller. I mean, it's easier because it's not a 10-star authenticity. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, it's just I'm trying to make it for me. It's just a really efficient facing curve that works, and then so there's not a lot of resistance getting stuff out of the way in the baffle. But hey, could you play? Because then I made this giant, and the way the giant came about was let's see, oops, there it is.
Mm.
Got that. The way the giant came about in my mind, Pharoah Sanders handed me a mouthpiece one time. It was aluminum, and he asked me if I'd make 2 copies and never any more, because Coltrane had given it to him. And the mouthpiece had this cool sound. It was very resistant, but I couldn't take that project. I just couldn't afford to do that, so I didn't do it. But it got me thinking about aluminum, and so what I wanted to do was make this mouthpiece for you in this hard anodized aluminum in a hard rubber shape. And the part about a hard rubber mouthpiece is it opens your mouth bigger, and your chamber is bigger than a metal mouthpiece. So that's part of the darkness. Could you compare the HR Star and the Giant 10 Star?
All right, I just put on the giant. Okay,
Okay.
so you heard a lot of the HR.
Well,
But
maybe you can play the HR after so
okay,
we can compare. Yeah.
no, I like it. I've been going back and forth again. Leading up to this, and um, I like the sound. It's a little different, but it's definitely doable. And I don't see too much difference feel wise between the two. That's the hip thing about it. It's not like, oh, I'm going to this metal and it's like a completely different animal. It still has similarities to the HR. Does that make sense?
Yep. It is a bigger chamber, and it pushes on further. Uh, it's got a little bit of resistance built in too,
That's cool.
actually.
All right, let me know if it's too much, okay?
You can play close to the mic.
All right, well, I don't want to blow everybody's head off.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, could you play the HR Star?
All right, just give me like 2 seconds to switch, okay?
Sure. Sure.
I want to take that. Any thoughts, Jody?
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
But to me, it's always about comparison, right, back and forth, and mostly, for me, a mouthpiece is sound and feel. It's not just sound. How does it feel to you? So
Mm.
if it's got to feel good, and then it's got to be in the kind of the ballpark of where you want to sound,
Mm.
and then it's all going to work.
Well, that's what I excuse me, that's what I was saying. I don't think there's too much difference feel wise. For
Mm.
me,
Yeah.
when I go back and forth with these two, I don't want to be like, oh, now I'm going to play this mouthpiece. I've got to get ready for the feel. It was like when I was playing my 6 after this, it was cool, but when I came back to this horn was mad at me. It was mad.
Weird.
Took me 2 or 3 days get back into the good graces of this balance. So I think with the Giant and the HR, when you switch back and forth, there's not. I mean, sound wise, it's a little different, but feel wise, it's cool.
And the feel wise, a part of that is because it's the same facing curve, because
Exactly, and I
that's
think
your curve that you had on your old link.
exactly.
And I studied that old link. And so that facing curve, it's not long. It's a 10 star, but you would think it was longer because it's 10 star, but it's not. So that's where it's at.
Yeah, that's a good factor. If the gang out there, if you're playing the HR already and you were to go to the similar Giant of whatever your size, it's not like a radical change.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. Maybe is a little sweeter.
Yeah.
What do you think? Sound wise.
Sam says, "Is the Giant a little brighter?" I don't know. I think the opposite.
I think the Giant's brighter,
Sam, I want
especially when you hit it hard.
to see you in my office on Monday.
uh,
He's a good kid. What do you think, George? I actually,
I do think, well, from my experience playing them and stuff, I know if I really hit that Giant hard, it's got something about the material, I think, gives it a little bit of edge.
yeah. I mean, you got to remember, like, there's been no gigs, so we're basically practicing, which is cool. But like I said, what Frank and I call when we go into combat, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
that's a whole different animal. It's a whole different animal. But again, to slide from piece to piece like that and not feel too much change as you're doing it, to me, is a good thing.
Mm.
Before,
George, do you know how do you decide when to use the Giant and the HR Star? Are there any particular gigs or situations that you might choose one over the other?
I don't know. I just so you guys know I don't play too much rock. I grew up doing that and I love it, but um, if I think I would use that more in that situation. I bounce back and forth. It's like how you feel. It's not like, oh, okay, in December I'm going to play this, and then in March I'm going to play that. But it's just pertinent to how I feel. I mean, there are all these mouthpieces. Excuse me. And what I did was we dug everything I have out, like all the different pieces you've given me, Jody, since we've been doing this, and everyone plays killing. So now I want to line, and you know me, I'm a one mouthpiece person. I do not like doing this, but
yeah.
when you can go from piece to piece and not notice that much differentiation in terms of you playing, that's a good thing.
Mm.
I mean, for me, I mean, I don't. If I get on the bandstand, I can't have a radical change all of a sudden because the way things are coming down. The intensity that people that I play with play is pretty
Yeah.
Mm.
intense.
Mm.
That's a nice thing to have backups, because I know so many people out there, they've had a mouthpiece for 30 years or something, and they don't have a backup. And I'm telling them, you better start looking for a backup now. You're not probably going to find something that plays just like that mouthpiece,
Mm.
but you need to find something, because you drop that thing or it gets stolen, and it happens all the time. You better have a backup ready, or you're going to be crying the blues. Uh,
Yeah. Well, and that's again the thing with your pieces. You could get two. You could buy two of these, and pretty much they would play. I mean, all the kids that went and bought a 10 noticed that they were very similar. You know, all the 10. If they tried three or four of them, like how you send like two or three or four, they'll play
yeah,
all three, and there's like wow, they're really related, but then they would pick one that they like. So I mean, that's why I still play it, because it's consistent. And the HR I'm playing, this is an older one too. I bet this
Yeah,
probably back when I did the DVD.
yeah. I
You
think I
know,
made that one in my closet in my loft. I was just working on that. I was really,
you
but
and you and Naoki.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Um, why don't we do, before I get into the next subject, give away one last DVD? Okay, is that
Yeah.
cool?
yeah.
Um, so I forget, George, how we even thought about this project. Do you remember?
I went. No, you
I
said to
think,
me, we were talking about kids that didn't go to school, or maybe didn't go to music school, and they wanted to, for a younger audience. And you said, well, maybe something like a funk DVD. And I said, man, I grew up doing that stuff. And then I brought the person that introduced me to music and jazz and rock, Rollins Ross. He came in, and then one night I went to hear Patitucci. I don't know if it was with Stern, and he overheard me talking to Mike about playing on this, and he was like, "Yeah." Stern said, "Yeah," and then John said, "Look, I want in on this." So I was like, instantaneously, I had this monster band, and Kenwood Denard was on it.
yeah,
Right?
yep,
It was,
yep.
again, I feel grateful, because just I believe in things happening. I just let things happening. I let things happen. A lot of people can't live like that, but I like to flow with the go, and that was one thing that went down. And
That
so,
was magical.
yeah, and
Uh,
then but the thing is, we didn't rehearse, we didn't talk about anything, which is how I like to do things. I mean, unless it was, tunes that we're going to play. I said, let's just go in and play grooves. And I always remember it was time to start the session. And I think Petitucci hadn't seen Kenwood in years, and Stern hadn't seen Kenwood, and they were like, blah, 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 blah. And I couldn't get their attention. You don't want to muscle people to get going, but the way we got the session going was Rollins started this groove. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. And all of a sudden, these cats hopped on their instruments, and we were off to the races.
and we hadn't had a sound check even. And Systems 2 in Brooklyn did, the sound was already ready. Everything, the drums were mic'd, and the cats were blowing. It was a magic. And I'm listening, and I'm, I'm like, I'm like going to the studio. You getting this? They're recording. You guys finished. We hadn't talked. We haven't even started the session. And then Max was the assistant up there. I said, Max, you got that? He said, no, no, I erased it. I said, my head exploded because it was magic what happened. You guys hadn't said a word and just started playing. But the whole session went like that. So, it was lost, but the next thing was just as good. So what this is a DVD on playing minor pentatonics, and from beginning to very advanced. And like George said, you're playing with Patitucci, Kenwood Denard, Mike Stern, Rollins Ross on keyboard. There's trading. George is giving you lessons. I give this to anybody, and it turns their playing around immediately, because you're talking about time, good phrasing. It's an amazing thing. So I tell people, if your grandmother wants to play ukulele, she wants to learn to improvise, her this.
Um,
So go ahead, George.
um, well, just again, just a little tweak about Systems 2, who, Joe and Nancy, retired. He was great they were always great with the sound from the beginning. Joe Marciano, I always remember walking in, I go, hey, how you doing? He goes, no, how you doing? And that was the beginning of that relationship. And he just knew my sound from the get-go. Then when we brought
Totally.
the video in to do, they were cool with that too, so
Yeah, it was a dream place. We did, I think, 4 projects over there. So
Yeah.
here is the question to win this DVD. Okay.
Jody,
First
I
one
think
to
just before that, could I answer two questions
sure.
that came in the comments before it gets flooded with the
Okay.
with the answers? So we have Leslie here. He asked, "Will this be available later for replay?" Yes, definitely on the Jody Jazz YouTube channel. And actually, if you click on the link above the Facebook post, you will see the link. It's also going live on YouTube, and we wanted to do that because this will be on the internet forever. So you can rewind and watch all the nuggets of goodness, from George. So definitely this is available for replay right after this show on the Jody Jazz YouTube channel. And we have another question. Any mouthpiece giveaways? Yes, we haven't spoken much about it, but yes, definitely. Jody is kind, really, really kind and generous to be giving away to the winner of our giveaway contest any HR star mouthpiece. So whether you play soprano, alto, tenor, baritone, you can choose, whichever tip opening and for whichever
Or
instrument, or
or a giant.
the giant, which is just for the tenor. So you have basically
Yeah.
five choices. So a HR star or a giant in any tip opening or for any instrument. So definitely we'll be announcing that later. And for those of you who are watching, you'll get the link. You'll be the first to be able to take part in this giveaway. So I just wanted to answer that before the comment section gets wiped out by all these answers. So this question is, I
Oh,
think,
okay.
probably the most difficult out of the three that we are having uh, today. So, Jody, you want to
You ready?
ask question? Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's the giveaway, the in the Funk Zone with George Garzone 2 DVD set. And the question is, how many years has the Fringe been together? Drum roll.
So if you need to Google that, you can try to move your fingers fast as well. So let's see. How many years have the Fringe been together? We have Mark saying 30. That is
Ha, ha, ha.
not close.
Not even close.
David 20. That's
Not
not
even.
close.
Good God.
Anyone else? We have 35. 38. Nope.
Getting warmer.
Getting
Really
warmer.
young.
We have Jaden saying 70.
My birthday this month.
We have Freshly Squeezed Aesthetics 50. Are we gonna go to the closest, or we
No,
gonna
come
make
on, they
sure
can
it's
get it.
the
That's really
okay?
close, by the way.
We have 50 is really close. We have a 45.
Come on, guys, just put in some numbers there.
Okay, it's getting a bit.
Uh,
We have
it's between 50 and
46.
45.
Yeah,
Getting
yeah.
warmer.
We have 48.
Woo, close.
Still no correct answer yet. 48 is really close. I think I see it.
There it is.
Oh no,
It is.
sorry.
There
One
it is.
was
The guy before
there it is.
got it.
Yeah.
Well,
Let
Joe,
me double check.
you know what to do? Galati and I used to complain about this all the time. Put it on my tab. Give one to the 49 guy and give one to the 50 guy, because I said it was 50 years. He kept saying it was 49.
We have
Okay.
many, many 50s. We have two
Not all of
49s that
First.
that came
Well,
quite close.
George, we got the
But we definitely have the first 49 answer right here by Steven
Yeah,
on
he
on
was
Facebook.
okay, and then I'll give it to the first 50.
cool.
Of the
Okay.
first 50.
The
Wow.
first 50
Okay.
guy. We can find it later.
Yeah, we'll find it later and we will, let's see.
Just if you think you're the first 50, email me. And
Here we have the first
yeah, I think that's
50.
it. So email Jody at jodyjazz.com and we'll send you one. All right, cool.
All right.
So George, yeah, I'm so sorry about Bob Galati of the Fringe. passing away, man.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, this year in general, well, not to mention everything else, just started. It started with that, and then just snowballed into everything else. But Bob and I always, Locke has been in. He's been in since '82 or '83, '84. But Bob and I always talked about if anything ever happened to any one of us to try to continue on. Well, continue on. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, and now between him passing and with the pandemic and no gigs, it's like a real stalemate. But Lockwood and I are pretty hell bent in keeping the band going because it's ironic. Last night I was listening to the Fringe "Hey Open Up" record on vinyl, and I didn't realize how good that band sounded when we were like 30 years old. I mean, I was blown away.
It's such an amazing band, and I bet the people are blown away that you guys have been together for 49 years. Uh, it's unbelievable. Like I said, in 1980, man, that's really where my real education was at, over at Michael's Pub, and hearing you cats, it just got into my skin or something. Uh, and How did you guys start, like, playing without chord changes?
Well, I was going to go back. I
Go
met
ahead.
I met Bob. I met Galot in at Berkeley. Same with Rich Appleman, who was the first bass player. But Bob and I met on a top 40 gig at the Holiday Inn in Randolph. And I would see him in class, and the next thing I get a call to go down to this gig, and I walk in, and I said, "Man, what are you doing?" "No, what are you doing?" And we started playing. I was like, "Damn, this guy's killing." So Bobby was always into sessioning, so he's like, "Why don't you come to my pad and we'll hit with Rich?" So we went once, and back then we were playing Recorder May, Blue Bossa, the real straight ahead tunes, and then
Yeah.
uh, Bobby was really knowledgeable about avant garde, and I was listening to Sun Ra and just the art ensemble and Ornette Coleman. I had never heard any of that, and man, it was like a mind blower. And then one day we were playing the standard tunes, and then we took a left and never returned.
Yeah.
72. So we started the first gig at Michael's in '76. Was Michael still going when you were there?
It was for a year or something. Yeah.
Okay, so we played this club, and once we started playing there, everyone played, and then that went for about 4 to 6 years, and then we moved to the Lizard Lounge after that, and then we went and ended up at the Lily Pad. But we always had a steady gig because I think club owners knew about the reputation of the band, that if we played somewhere, people would come and musicians would want to play. I remember Alan Dawson calling me and Billy Pierce saying, "Man, is that club cool? Is that cool place?" I said, "Alan, totally." And so once they got the word that the place was cool, everyone started coming down. So the band was infamous for not caring, and they just went down and played the way we wanted to play. And the stories that went over 50 years are mind-boggling. Things that happened to us along with the playing. That the Fringe is about freedom. So what happened was when we would start to play, people, I think we were an identification of themselves. So they were able to cut loose in whatever tightness they had about their daily routine. So people were coming down um, weekly for a dose of medicine on how to cool out. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why it went on and on. It was good for us too. I mean, losing this guy and then everything else that's happened is like a big awareness to what's going on. I always remember watching the news one day and about the pandemic. They were like, you know, what has happened to us is like the big guy upstairs saying, "Okay, everyone go to your room until further notice." And I was like, "Damn, that's exactly what it is." It's like a time to reassess. So I'm practicing, learning a lot about myself, and just figuring out, like we all are, what are we going to do when we grow up? Along these
Well, hey George, what would I think one of my favorites, but what fringe record would you have somebody begin listening to if they haven't heard you on the fringe?
Well, any of them are great. I mean, I listened to the second record we did, Hey Open Up, and
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe that we sounded like that when we were 32ish. Not that I didn't believe it, but it was like, whoa. And then Rich Appleman, he could hang with these up tempos. You remember that, Jody? He would hang, and we were playing like 500, like it was 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I need to go back and listen to that and learn how to get back. So any of the fringe, with Rich, and then when Lockwood came in the band, we did the Raging Bull, which was recorded live in a bull rink in the Azores, uh,
Wow.
and that was captured on a Ampeg tape recorder. And I made one of the guys that work for Azores Airlines. They gave the tape to the pilot, and the pilot happened to live in Fall River, and he dropped the tape off with me here in Bridgewater, and we were able to put that out. So I don't know what to say. They're all good. The 40-year anniversary. Um, just what's the other ones? Live at the Somerville Theater, when we went into that little area of dressing as Neanderthal men. That really was apropos to the way the music sounded. So if you chronologically look at everything that happened, it was like the history of a band, like the Rolling Stones or the Grateful Dead. It was a band that went on for 30, 40, or 50 years.
Yeah, I really recommend any of the records because it's gonna open up people's mind, and when you guys drop into a ballad, and it's you make up the most beautiful ballads, and there's like no preconception, no, and it's like a tune. It's amazing. So anyway, speaking of recordings, one of your latest recordings is with Peter Erskine, Three Nights in L.A. Tell us how that project, because this like I said, it should have been a Grammy. It's one of the best recorded records, best playing. Tell us about that.
Well, I always say what I said 5, 10 minutes ago: be careful for what you wish for, because you might get it. So what happened was, I saw Pete on Facebook, and Pete and I go back to the American Diary, playing with Minieri, being on the road, and then playing at the Grammy Awards, where he called me to come out and play the after party for the rap groups with the Foo Fighters and Chick. Actually, Chick sat in with us, blah blah blah. But um, I saw Pete on Facebook or Messenger. I said, "Hey, Pete, how you doing?" He said, "Oh, good, man. But listen, I can't talk right now. I'm going to the release of one of this of a guitar player on my album, my record label." I said, "Oh, you have a record label?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Oh man, can I play on it? Just can I play on it?" 30 seconds later, he said, "Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to get us at Sam first, and I'm going to have the recording engineer from the Grammys come in, and he's going to record it live." Done. So of course, uh, Alan was so great, and the bass player. I'm spacing on their names, but right now, Alan Pasqua and Derek, they were so good. We went down. I did a few standards, a few of my tunes, a few of Alan's tunes, one of Pete's tunes, one of Derek's tunes, and we laid this thing down in 3 nights, and it was right off the cuff. And again, you know me, ladies and gentlemen, how I talk about perfection in time. Uh, Peter is one of the few people I deem as having metronomically perfect time. And that record sounds the way it does because of his time, because he allowed me to do anything that I love to do without even batting an eyelash. So the record went down because I opened my mouth.
That's cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think it, why it didn't win a Grammy, who knows? But I know he was really influential in trying to make it happen. And sometimes music goes beyond Grammys and this and that. But that record to me is one of the best I've ever done. Liana wrote a song for my son after he had just passed like a few months before, and she was there with me, and she made this tune happen. It was like whew, a lot of emotion, a lot of music, and a lot of fun being with people that you love playing with.
Yeah, it's a tremendous record, and the tune you wrote for Brecker, the ending of it, you play. It's like a lullaby. It's so beautiful. Like it's just people got to check. I want to do this again someday, George, where we play all these cuts from these records and everything. Because I want people to check you out. What I get from these interview things is I go dive deep into the cat. So I've been studying you. I already know you so well, and I get so much energy from listening to all your tunes and stuff, and uh, just it's been really cool.
Well, just let me toot the horn for you for a minute. I think, when you play the way I do, and you take chances, and you know you're stepping outside of the norm of the way people play, but way back you you trusted what I was doing, so I really credit you for taking that chance. And guys like you and Manieri and Mike, you know were the reason that I am where I am now, because Mike, I did, I think, 4 or 5 records with him, and then you kept things going. Some people don't like to take chances and go with the norm. Other people want to take chances and take a chance. And if you fail, at least you gave it a shot. I mean, that's what the striatic chromatic approach is about. And when I had to sell it to you and make you understand, it's not the way people normally play, but you trusted it and you took a chance. And I think for whatever it is, we've gone a long way.
Yeah,
People are talking to me a lot about the triadic approach. I don't know if they can play it, but they're always questioning. Yeah, but how come you can play these triads, any triad you want over any chord? Because that's the way it goes. If you don't repeat yourself, everything can happen. So again, I really credit you for going out on a limb with me, but you know, I knew more about the possibility, I think, than you did. And so here we are now. But I'm definitely down for doing another one of these because the vibe is great. You know,
cool.
uh,
Yeah, well, it's just been an honor, and to be along with that, and just to help get that going, and it got, as the mouthpiece thing kind of grew too much, and I couldn't really do the publishing anymore. But I'm so glad that you guys are doing it. Liana's really making it cool product now, and
she's
so
good. Let me say 2 things. I told you this way back, remember, because you're one of my sons. I was like, Joe, you're taking on too much, and you're like, no, no, I'm cool. But you did it, you know. So you were yelling at me, I was yelling at you. I said, Joe, you're doing a lot, man. It's a lot of work, but you did it. And then having my wife come into my life and understanding everything that I don't understand about the computer, about business, and the Wi-Fi. She's like another blessing, and she's developing her own company too, and being able to produce the things that we're doing. So, like I said, it's okay to trust the universe, because if you have that right karma and chi and good energy, it comes to you. I mean, I want to live by that right now more than ever, because everything around us is completely cuckoo.
yeah. Well, do you want to take some quick little questions and before we wrap up?
Sure.
yeah, I think since we were talking about the triadic chromatic approach. I have a question here that we could answer for everyone. And Mike is asking, do I need to be in an advanced level when learning this approach?
No, Mike, all you need to do is know how to make up a major triad, a minor triad, an augmented triad, and a diminished triad. If you're to that point, you can do it. Okay, because all triads are created equal. Okay, so if you know if you're at that point where you understand what these four triads are and how they differentiate, you'd be able to do this. But again, you really need to buy the DVD to understand what's happening from
Mm,
the beginning.
mm,
And
thank you.
should cats, you know, who who don't feel they have their straight ahead playing together yet, uh, improvising, should they go ahead and start the triadochromatic approach?
Yes, because hopefully before I hit the deck, I want to hear someone that could actually play it. A and B, it's going to take you a while to get it together. But you, playing straight ahead in traditional, you practice that alongside of trying to do this because in the end, you're going to realize that they're both related.
Mm,
Cool.
definitely. Cool. And we have another question for George. How do you maintain the music spiritual growing during this pandemic era?
Well, like I said, because of this Zen master who I met when I was 28, I'm reaching more into my system more than I ever have. So I'm just looking inside myself and still working to form and trying to get up early and walking instead of running. So for me, nothing has really changed other than the scene around me. So you need to go in and take a good look at yourself from the inside and learn about what you're about.
Mm, thank you so much for that. And I think we are coming very close to the end of today's session. We really thank George for his time here. And maybe we could squeeze in just one or two more quick questions. If you guys want, then write in the comments here. And we also want to say thanks to some of the Jody Jazz dealers who I saw who are here as well. We have Masulo Music, we had
Hey,
Sophia from Mexico. Really nice to see the whole Jody Jazz family here as well, and
yeah.
definitely a lot of people who love George and his playing. So thank you so much. And yeah, let's see. We have whether we have one or two more questions, but maybe at the meantime, I'll drop the link to George's website where you can purchase the triadic chromatic approach on Apple Books. Right here, I've dropped it in, so do check it out. His music and this, you can check it out there. Let me see. Okay, maybe while waiting for one or two last questions, I'll also drop in the link to the giveaway. And once again, this is a giveaway for the winner to receive any HR Star mouthpiece in any tip opening or for any instrument or the giant mouthpiece. So I'm going to drop it in here. You have 8 ways to win entries. And then after that, it will be automatically drawn by the system for the lucky winner. So I've just dropped the link in there. And okay,
Yeah,
I have a question. Yes.
oh, cool. No, if you didn't have a question, I was going to say something. But if you have a
No.
question, bring that up. Bring the question up, and then I'll
Okay.
answer the whole thing.
No problem. We have a question from Les. He was like, George, how is teaching? Are you teaching your classes virtually now or back in
All
person?
Berkeley is online, which I think is a great thing
Mm,
because, with all that's happening, you don't want to put anyone at risk. So
mm,
in Berkeley has been teaching online for the last 10 to 15 years. So when it came time to slide into this, it was a
mm.
no-brainer for that college. And I really
Wow.
credit this place that I've been at for 45 years for knowing this and dealing with this 15
Wow.
years ago, because their platforms and everything that they're doing are on the highest level. And for me, who is really novice with all of this, having a great boss like Walter Smith, who was one of my students, helps. Everyone is so helpful. Liana, everyone is just wonderful. So teaching virtually, it's a different thing, but I always looked at teaching as like being an entertainer. So you've got to be able to keep the energy up, and that's what this virtuality is about: keeping energy up. It's a little bit tedious, but it's what we have right now. So I'm just happy that, for instance, in the saxophone department of Berkeley, we had 74 entering students. That's unbelievable considering what's happening. And
Wow.
Walter's happy. We're all happy that the kids. And when I auditioned them on Monday, they were so excited to start on Monday that it was a mind blower for me. It was inspirational, you know.
Wow.
So virtual. I mean, it would be great to be one on one, but I think given with what's happening, this is a great moment. Are
Mm.
there any more questions, Dan?
Yes, one more. Maybe we can do a one last one from Pete. He says, "How can you explain your work with the Zen masters, and especially regarding air support?"
No restriction. Pete, I've got to be vague, not vague, but quick about it. Just think about when you take in a breath of air, do you feel any restriction here? Do you feel any restriction from your stomach? Okay. So you need complete airflow. That means everything needs to be open. Again, talking about, dealing with the discipline of what the Zen master did, he taught us about total freedom, mind and body freedom. And that's what the breathing, life is about breathing. If you're not breathing deep, if you're not breathing full, then you're cutting off your air supply to life.
Mm. Thank you so much, George. And let me see. I think we definitely have to. We want to end this session very soon. But I think what I'm doing is I'm actually pulling out the link where you can purchase any of the DVDs that Jody has mentioned earlier today. And for those winners, you can contact Jody at jodyjazz.com to get your DVD. But I'm gonna quickly drop in the link here. Let me get it.
Yeah,
Excellent. And I guarantee everybody will love this stuff because you get to hang with George and you're getting to listen to his sound.
Yeah.
And just playing along with George, listening to his sound elevates your playing. And if you're, and these are for all instruments, by the way.
Joe.
And, you get on the funk zone, you get to blow with Mike Stern and Patitucci and Kenwood Denard are laying it down. So for play along stuff, there's nothing better. And educational wise, George lays it down for you. It's really cool.
Right. I dropped the link here to in the funk zone, but you can just go to jodyjazz.com and I'm sure you'll find it easily. And cool. So yes, you can purchase for those who didn't win as well. And then on George's website, you can get his um, um, download of the triadic chromatic approach. Let's see. Okay, George. Any last words for the viewers who are watching live now?
Yeah, I just want, kind of a Zenism again for all the teachers that are listening out there, and the students. I feel a good teacher is a teacher that teaches the student how to teach himself. So after you're done taking lessons and going to school, learn how to separate from your teacher and don't become dependent on him. Like you've got to go out and teach yourself how to learn after college or after school. So that's what I do. I try to teach these kids how to teach themselves later on, which will help them to teach students. Okay, this was great. Thank you. It was awesome. And
Thank
when
you
do
so
I get
much,
the new
George.
car, Jody?
Oh, the new car? Yeah, it'll be in the parking lot. It's a pink Cadillac, brother. Uh,
Thank you.
Thank
so,
you so much. And Jody,
George, thank you
we have
so
one
much.
more. The upcoming episode, we will not share who the we will be having two special guests on the next episode, but we won't announce it right now. But you guys can definitely look out for the next session of Live from Jody's Jazz Joint. And I think that will be a fun session as well. But thank you so much again, George, for taking the time. And it really means a lot. And I'm sure, it's just so much great information. And like we mentioned just now, this whole episode will still be available to rewatch on YouTube at any time. So yeah, you guys can rewind and watch it again as well.
Cool.
All right, George, thank
Cool.
you so much.
You're welcome.
Daniel, thanks again for hosting.
No
And
problem.
everybody who came by, thank you very much. I wasn't watching the scroll, so I missed if you came by, and I know you. Sorry, I didn't see it, but because I'm just a sax player, can't do two things at once. But thank you to everybody, and Liana, thank you too. All
Yeah,
right.
thank you, Liana. Okay,
So.
thank you, everyone. Have a great day and see you guys at the next show.